Probably not. I mean, I think they're going to continue with that plan unabated, so I'm not sure this changes anything in that regard, but we'll see. Maybe this will spur some interesting pieces of truth to come out under the wire.
And I believe I've seen buzz about some kind of new info about Saudi Arabia that's going to come out that will further cause geopolitical tension. So that remains to be seen. But James, as if that bit of Biden wasn't enough, I think I could liken it to how we've talked about when the Super Bowl or the World Cup comes to your town. It's about the same as when a big world globalist politician comes to your town. It goes completely locked down, like yesterday when Vice President Joe Biden came right here to Portland, Oregon to do a campaign stop with a good senator here, Jeff Merkley, who's actually, down for GMO labeling. Our two senators in Oregon here could be way, 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 way worse. Merkley and Wyden aren't very bad at all. And I wonder if Merkley actually wanted Biden or if the party paymaster said, you're getting this for your campaign thing. Shut up. Here it comes. But basically, you have someone come to your town that completely locks down traffic, completely locks down public transportation, ruins people getting to work, which, of course, our politicians claim they care about the working family and all that, yada, yada. So there's ridiculous photos of not only the event, but also Joe Biden getting ice cream at the local ice cream place. And you can actually follow, and you can see some of my own tweets as well when you use hashtag BidenPDX. And I was tweeting that, I really hoped he had time while he was here to talk about how Western intelligence groups created ISIS. It's always fun to kind of hop on those trending hashtags just to kind of drop a little bit of truth bombs when and where you can, James. Let's actually move to our third and final story this week, which I think, again, bookends well. And I think both good news next week stories out of Latin America. For our third and final story, Acapulco's police force went on strike and no one cared. Let's grab this from the freethoughtproject.com and JG Vibes, and you ask the question, what would happen if the police in your town went on strike? Would it be like something out of The Purge, or would people actually organize and take care of themselves? Every community is different, and it's possible that different people would react differently, but for the most part, when these type of situations arise, people actually don't descend into madness. This past week, it was reported that police in Acapulco, Mexico, went on strike, and the people of the city, for the most part, do not seem to want them back. It turns out that without the transit police, there's less traffic. And without the municipal police, there's also been no noticeable increase in crime. Jeff Berwick, an Acapulco resident and founder of the Dollar Vigilante, said that people in the city have seemed much happier since the police went on strike. In a recent report, Berwick explained how traffic actually ran much smoother without the transit police, saying, quote, weeks went on, and you could tell that almost everybody had become aware of the lack of transit police, and no one was adhering to red lights if there wasn't any oncoming traffic. The majority of people began treating red lights like a yield sign. They'd slow down, check that no cars were coming, and if they weren't, they'd just roll through the red light instead of sitting there for a minute or two as traffic backed up behind them, he said. Now, while that may seem like one sort of little isolated thing, James, I think, one, it speaks well to the previous note of Biden wrecking traffic, but that the cops actually caused the traffic problems, and you could extrapolate that out to any other areas that, the central bankers who are supposed to they actually wreck the dollar, or the police that are supposed to enforce this actually just make that worse. So this article, again, from JG Vibes wraps up by noting there's, of course, a need for community and property services and all those kind of things, but for the most part, they can be decentralized and they can be offered spontaneously by members of the community in a decentralized way. James?
What vile propaganda. If I recall anything from my public education, it's the fact that if the police are removed, people will instantly turn into murdering savages who will do anything to kill and let loose a torrent of blood, the likes of which we have never seen. Yes, what a great story! What a wonderful story this is. Again, proving that free humanity is better than controlled cattle-like humanity. And let's just contrast what's happening there in Acapulco to what happens on the streets of the United States every single day with a video that's making the rounds right now, showing an unconstitutional checkpoint, as I'm sure we're all used to seeing in video form, at least by this point, where a citizen attempts to, successfully in this case, thankfully, invokes his constitutional rights to not be searched and to not answer questions. And the officer questioning him basically says, "Oh, I hate it when Americans pull this crap," or something like that. So that's the contrast, and it's a pretty blatant one. And I don't think anyone would be weeping tears of sadness if those types of police were suddenly to disappear from the streets of the United States. It's all about the community policing, and if people check through to the link that you are providing with this story and watch the video, there's a firm in Detroit that is providing that kind of community policing service. It's not a police service. It's a private service that has reduced violent crime and increased property values in the places where it's patrolling. So again, there are success stories that don't have anything to do with government agencies and men with guns pretending to be the authority. So again, just a wonderful little story. And on that note, I guess we should note that Jeff Berwick is also currently organizing a little conference there in Acapulco, Anarchapulco. So you can go to anarchapulco.com for more on that, and to find out more about what can be done to further extend this idea, not just traffic cops, but maybe we can get rid of other government laws, rules, regulations, and things that are binding free humanity and shackling them.
It puts the lie to the ridiculous idea that, oh, well, yeah, the only reason I'm not out robbing and stealing and killing people is because, it's against the law. So, James, let's wrap up with a couple of other good news next week updates that, again, you can submit these stories to us on Twitter using hashtag Good News Next Week. And, James, one from you, another one, Dublin city councilors vote against fluoride, and one from G.J. Salisbury, 3D printed heart saves the life of a 2-week-old baby, which, again, constantly reminded that we are living in the future already. It's happened. Some of the other New World Next Week updates from stories that we have followed recently. As recently as today, James, unfortunately, the EPA has approved Dow AgroSciences Agent Orange ingredient 2,4-D that we reported on here a few weeks ago, aka Enlist Duo. So again, that's our environmental protection agency here in the States. G.J. Salisbury also points out an interesting book called Panda Leaks. Shows, and of course proves, that the World Wildlife Federation is run by big business. They hire death squads and they censor their critics. But what would you expect from an organization set up by the Rockefellers and Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands and other Nazi-connected, eugenics-obsessed so-called elites? There's also a documentary called The Silence of the Pandas. I can provide you some links. It seems to kind of bob and weave whether or not this documentary lasts online. So if folks can find actually a better copy of the Silence of the Pandas documentary, please tweet it to us. And meanwhile, ABC is developing an MK Ultra CIA miniseries, James, because there aren't enough sort of intel-connected propaganda shows on television. But speaking of media, James, I think folks may know, as we wrap this episode up, that as my day job, I actually work in commercial radio. And I did used to work for Ground Zero, but actually moved to a rock and roll station several months ago. And that lets me kind of do different, more in my wheelhouse kind of things related to music. So I've been able to actually interview bands recently. And I had a huge blast last week actually interviewing Connor Oberst of Bright Eyes. So I'll provide that link for folks if they want to check that out, and also some of the other recent interviews with bands that I've done. And again, I don't call it Media Monarchy for nothing. I am a music-obsessed guy, and actually hopefully hope to have a lot of more interesting details and info, James, as I sort of infiltrate corporate media and try and give it the Media Monarchy twist, James.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to that. And in the meantime, for anyone who's listening to this on the Truth Seeker app, or anyone who uses the Truth Seeker app that I have linked up on the front page to listen to Corbett Report and other media on the go on their mobile device, they're currently doing a Kickstarter campaign to develop an upgrade to their app for the first time since 2010. So they're looking for some funds to that. We'll put the link in the show notes so you can go and support them if that's something that you're interested in. So I think we'll leave it there for this week. James, thank you again for 3 great stories. Let's do it again next week.
All right, man. Thanks so much.